Hello there and welcome to Blitzkrieg 3. I'm your host, PPGQ, and welcome to a Let's Try video. And today we're taking a look at a very promising Steam Early Access game that I think, could use a bit of work here and there, but nevertheless is quite the promising title. So, Blitzkrieg 3 here is the long-standing title inside the Blitzkrieg series here, a series that has its, roots way back in the field of RTS when, I think it was somewhere around the release of, the classic Command & Conquer games, really. So, the latest iteration of the Blitzkrieg game here, and actually all of the three different games inside the series, kind of, they do things very differently. The latest one here being a bit of a mix between kind of a Clash of Clans concept, as odd as that sounds, and a PC, RTS game. Nevertheless, though, I think it has a lot of potential. I think it can work out, seeing as how the developers have been listening to the community. They have been making changes that people are wanting. And with that said, I mean, the game is fairly polished. I mean, the graphics and all of that. I mean, how the game works truly is pretty good. But there's a few slight things that I suppose they could change for the better. And today we're just taking a look at kind of how far does the game, how far has the game gone so far, and where does it kind of need to go here. So there's two different modes inside the game. Oddly enough, the main menu screen, I get terrible frames, so I've decided to start inside inside the main portion of the game here. The title features, it features a campaign. It's about 7 missions long for single player content, but the star of the show here is the what I dub as the kind of Clash of Clans thing right here, where you control a base, you kind of pick out how you defend this, how you launch attacks and all that, and you really just kind of fight amongst enemies, and then try to defend your base whenever something comes up, as odd as that sounds. So the general gist is very similar to something almost a mobile game, honestly. Your base will be made out of these kind of 9 or 8 buildings right over here. What you have is you have a fuel depot, you have a material depot, you have one building to call in support fires, you have some sort of a research building, you have a barracks to train infantry, a factory to make tanks and the such, an HQ that you can upgrade to kind of increase the amount of troops you have on the field, and you also have a little construction shack where you can put down your own defenses from. Generally how the game goes is that you upgrade these units, you upgrade these buildings, you buy units, your units go into a pool, they level up with your forces. With these units you can typically pluck them down on your base here to defend and to go from there, or you can take them along, hit the big battle button right over here and try to siege someone else. So kind of going into that, I mean, I think it still nevertheless has a lot of potential, but right there and then I think it kind of scares people off. One of the things is that the game is multiplayer in the sense that people can make their own bases, you can try to siege them, and you can see the replays of it. But the reason why I say the community has been, or the developers have been really good at listening in with the community, is that nowadays they've changed it so that you can have real-time PvP battles with people. It's not kind of these one-way deals where the game will actually try to prioritize finding people who are actively playing the game, and they will try to pair you up like that. And likewise, when you are defending, the game will try to how should I say? The game will try to find people who are who will try to attack you, and it'll notify you to defend too. So let's take a look at what I have so far, and what you can kind of do from here. So the game has quite a comprehensive tutorial, which is good, especially for these types of games. It's not very grindy, so don't worry about that. Your resources do automatically kind of replenish with time, but more often than not, you're picking up so much of them, you actually go over your kind of cap very easily, so it's not an issue at all. Taking a look at your troops over here, what we can do is we can construct a wide variety of different things from our barracks and things like that. Usually, though, the star of the show here would probably be the vehicles factory here and the barracks, where you can produce infantry and tanks respectively. The odd thing here is that your troops level up. So, for example, for the German faction here, where I should mention that there's 3 different factions you can play as. You can play as the Axis, the Allies, and the Soviets, and each and every single one of them, I believe, will have a different base layout. But as you go along through the game here, it looks like they reuse a few different troops. But as you can see, you can kind of level up your forces as you go along. In fact, my infantry have been around for some time, so they're level 4. I think I have a tank here that's level 7. And as they do this, they oddly enough, they gradually gain, say, more durability, more protection, and the such like that. But nevertheless, I mean, it's a very interesting game concept like that. So from here, I mean, with those two buildings, I can buy troops to defend and attack with. You get your troops back per each battle, so they don't disappear, which is quite nice. So it removes quite a bit of the grind, especially because they level up like that. From the support track over here, we can order artillery barrages and stuff like that during the battles. And over here, from this thing, I believe you can get upgrades eventually if you upgrade this far enough. The bad thing being, a lot of the upgrades, they work off of upgrading the HQ and then upgrading the separate buildings, which is kind of annoying. So what I do here is that I can just tab through these. I can upgrade, for example, the material depot, the fuel depot over here. And I'm actually going to do this 2 times, just so that we have a bit of a cap for later on. And I think we'll hit the big old battle button over here and, well, start up a match to play around with. So we hit this over here. I already kind of have my troops set up, and the general idea is that you pick out what support units you want, you pick out your army, and this is quite expandable, if you will, for a wide variety of units, and you hit the battle screen, and you pretty much start a battle like this. So yeah, that's generally how the game typically works here. So once you're kind of inside the game and all, it plays out as a fairly, plays out as a, I would say, pretty good traditional RTS. You have your groups of tanks, you have your groups of infantry. The infantry can take cover in buildings and around, forested areas here and there, and along with sandbags as well. But it's very asymmetrical. You're constantly either, attacking or you're kind of passively defending, usually. And I think that's just kind of a side effect, despite the fact they've implemented, true PvP. Nevertheless, though, I've only seen a couple of people on at one time. So that said and all, typically more often than not, you won't find a real opponent to play, which is a shame, because I see it working out pretty well. So right now, it is a Blitzkrieg game. Your infantry dies pretty easily, but it's not as bad as, say, the first few titles where, if your infantry met a tank, so long as the tank commander kind of looks at the infantry, they die. It's a little bit better than that, but nevertheless, your infantry die absurdly quick inside this game. Right, so the general pacing is that it's a tank-centric game, really throwback to the good old RTS days. You can move your forces up through the space, and the general pacing is that you are trying to capture the enemy HQs. And as I said, the community has been pretty good so far, or the developers have been pretty good so far with listening to the community, in the sense that, for example, infantry units in the past, from what I've read, the game has had some problems with, say, minefields, which are represented by these flags, being relatively more so difficult to detect than they should be, right? And one of the changes they've implemented here is that infantry can now clear things up. So I'm rather hopeful for the game, more so because because the developers are, they are taking that effort to kind of balance out the game, which is quite nice, and really listening to community kind of requests like that. Right, so let's get our forces to move on through. The idea here is that I have a variety of tanks here. We don't necessarily need to rush to the fight here. I have a few of these early, German tanks. We have some of the Panzerkampfwagen 38Ts, really early game tanks with a, for the most part, decent main cannon. We have a few of these, I believe, Italian little armored vehicles, really, and these are extremely good at just kind of peppering enemy infantry with bullets. And in addition to have a wide variety of these infantry squads, they're very good against infantry. That's about it. And 2 squads of anti-tank infantry squads as well. These guys are just kind of armed with anti-tank weapons like that. So overall, I mean, I think it does the combat quite nicely. As a matter of fact, I mean, things flow exactly what you expect them to do. Almost, if I were to make a comparison, kind of like the first Company of Heroes game, where for the longest time I had a whole bunch of Panzer IIs with the little flat guns on them, as well as the machine guns, and you could tell, I mean, kind of when they would fire and how much impact it would actually do, which is quite nice. Right, so I haven't talked about the actual, reason why you're capturing things and all that. The idea being you capture enemy kind of control points along their base, and as you capture them, you kind of finish out the scenario. Technically, you only have to capture one of these to really finish off the mission, though the more you capture, the better, obviously. And again, I mean, the community, where the developers have been listening to the community on this sense. I think given a matter of one, there not being that many people playing, and B, not a lot of people like the fact that, I mean, if you lose your resources, you lose them for good. They've been very helpful in that sense. And now, if you if your base gets taken or something, the resources don't actually come from your stockpiles. They come from more or less wherever. The game kind of generates them on demand, really, which is quite nice in practice. Though, I mean, from one point perspective, I can see people kind of being angry at the fact that it kind of reduces the general flow of that as well. But nevertheless, it works out pretty well. So overall, we've gotten pretty lucky here. As a matter of fact, we managed to roll into this area almost, or rather, we managed to roll into, I would say, a pretty undefended base over here. So I think we'll get some more forces to occupy this area. Take a look at the very rear of these buildings, kind of see where the defenders are for now. Or no, there we go. And right, so we can finish off a battle like that, and that will, be kind of the end of that. So, what'll happen at the end of each battle is, depending on how many of those flags you've capped, you gain the various amounts of resources, and the game will just kind of continue like that. What was I going to say there right before we cut to loading? I think I was going to say that, that's pretty much the general flow of the game. Oh, right now I remember. One of the things that you do have to note is that we got pretty lucky there inside that battle. We were able to find someone who was approximately on par with our strength. But the thing with, having a low population with these types of games is that for the last couple of battles here, I don't know if I can show you guys it, but a lot of the times I would fight people with absurd amounts of stockpiles, like 11,000 resources each, which I guess at this point doesn't seem so bad, but it was from my perspective at least kind of excessive. I guess the reason being that the AI or the matchmaker, it couldn't simply find somebody who was kind of on par with the same tier. So yeah, it goes with that. Taking a look at this screen right over here, you can take a look at just in general how kind of well or where the end game is kind of at. There's 7 levels of HQs, about 20-ish levels of the main buildings, and about 10-ish, 15-ish at the lowest of the rest of the buildings over here. So again, overall, I think it sets up for a very, very promising game. Just overall, I mean, the developers are listening. So far, the product is good for its concept, though it is certainly, different. Not necessarily, I would say, in the bad sense, but in the truly different sense. And as you can see, I mean, it is a gorgeous game for its tier here. So, moving on here, we have a lot of resources. I figured we'd upgrade the base. I'd show you guys some more things here and there, and I think that'll be all here. Right, so we can upgrade these different buildings, we can open up different tiers of buildings, and these will allow us to buy various different things. I think we'll upgrade the barracks, the the, what's it called, factory over here, and I think we'll upgrade the HQ if we possibly can. Nope, we need 5 levels of these 2 buildings, so I think we'll just gradually upgrade these. And yeah, we'll go from there, and we'll see how the game plays out. So, in the meantime, we have a lot of fuel, and we have a lot of stuff, so you know what, let's buy a few vehicles, and let's, well, test our own defenses here as soon as we make them. So, we bought a few new units here. We can take a look at their different stats. From the looks of it, the base assault infantry by far is better than the regular infantry, and they don't necessarily cost too much in terms of the points, the supply points, as the game calls it, your kind of unit cap for these battles. So that is yeah, kind of another consideration you have to deal with. Come to think of it, on that note, as you may have noticed here, I haven't played a lot of this game, enough to get myself familiar with it, but that's pretty much it. Come to think of it, you know, with this kind of unit setup, it looks like, from the looks of it, you do need to constantly kind of upgrade your troops. So there is a lot of upgrading and things like that to do, which I wouldn't say necessarily is, you know, terribly great. Taking a look at base defenses, one of the things that kind of annoys me is that you don't really know where your opponent starts off on your maps. From the looks of things, it is over here. I mean, we could test the defenses easily to figure that out, but I would much prefer it if you just kind of straight up told me here. Anyhow, how this works is that you can move different buildings around, and I believe as you do that, you can kind of set up different, I want to say different things that, or different policies that, or you know, in terms of how they will react to enemies. So, for example, right now I would rather defend perhaps the heights toward the bridge over here. But from the looks of things, we are much better set up to defend over here. So, you know what? We can switch that over as well. And yeah, you can set up these fixed defenses firstly. So right now, we can move the mortar squad back over here. Yeah, one of the things that kind of annoys me though is the fact that you can't really tell where, or you know, what units exactly you're moving around unless you highlight down here. You can't you know, tooltip over things to check out what they are. But what you can do here is that you can set your fixed emplacement units here and there, and it would have been really nice if this was something that was usable. But then afterwards, you can kind of position your infantry around your defenses. Yeah, so you can set them up like that. And we're just going to do a quick test here, but we can set up some units. We can set them up so that they either hold their position where they try to move around, I believe inside this zone right over here. And afterwards we can test our defenses here, send in our troop with the various different types of support as well here. And yeah, so the support troops you get also level up accordingly. We can swap out some vehicles here. I don't necessarily need those MG tanks anymore, so we can swap them out for some of these higher tier vehicles. And you know what, we might as well put in the other new Hetzer tank as well. And we can hit the start button over here and, you know, try the base again. So there we go. Now we are back into the attack. And we can kind of press through here. And again, really lovely game in terms of the polish on the graphics and all that. Really like the how they do the force and how these tanks just kind of smash through those. The infantry kind of hide in here. And as you see going by the little red eye icons, they're actually hidden right now. Right, so let's get our tanks to try to push through here and see how well they can do. So I think what I do here is that I want to try to amass these tanks. And then I think we try to push through with these guys first, and then bring up the other stuff second. Now, I'm not sure whether or not we see those minefields because we are attacking our own base, or maybe because of something else. So here, for example, I can use the smoke screen to hide some of my troops. While those guys are fighting, I'll bring up the reserves. And yeah, the vehicles do a semi-decent job in their simulations. I mean, for example, so far I've seen that they can be tracked and all. They have, as you may have noticed, various different levels of kind of armor penetration and defense accordingly. Yeah, and from the looks of it, the infantry still dive fairly easily to the mines, of course. And would you look at that? It would seem as though those mines are really stopping my my tank advance over here. Right. But soon enough we can press through and, well, try to demolish these defenses. So, that is, well, kind of the game at a glance here. I think we'll jump back to the main map mode, and, well, then afterwards I think we'll just leave off from there. Okay, well, here we are, back once again. So, leaving off, I think currently, if I were to kind of rate the game, you know, I would kind of put it at a hold, but going forwards, and again, I say it's a very promising game, just simply because of what they've shown so far. I think going one step further, what they need to kind of show here is perhaps a little bit more variety inside the game, and afterwards, I mean, it being early access and all, and them being quite flexible with what they have here, I think that would kind of put it to that level of a really solid title for me. So a couple of very small details. I mean, looking at this operational readiness panel over here, one of the things I would honestly consider changing is making it so that the assault group honestly has more supply points than the defense group to kind of amass and send over. And as it currently stands, I mean, there's no real difference in keeping the same pool of troops for attack and defense, so long as it's under that 300 point limit for us at the least, and kind of rotating them out like that. But for now, I don't necessarily know too much about the meta of the game and all that. Going from there, I think what would be really neat is having kind of multiple base options, because as it currently stands, depending on the level of your HQ, you move through a progressive kind of stream of bases, if you will, gradually getting bigger and bigger for more advanced play and all that. What I'd like to see is maybe having a few different maps for each different faction, because currently, I mean, between the different factions they are indeed different, but inside the same ones they are kind of samey like such. Either way, if they could probably make some changes like that, or alternatively add some new game modes as well for these bases, where for this type of attack and defend play, I would say that that's also fairly interesting, but nevertheless, very promising title. So, if you've enjoyed this Let's Try video so far, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. We'll be taking a look at all sorts of strategy games in the future, and well, with that said and done, I think we'll see you guys next time in another Let's Try, or perhaps a Let's Play. Thank you, and bye-bye.